Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. And we're going to open up by starting with Chairman Lawrence Solomon from the Lummi Nation this afternoon. So you are in the suicide prevention panel and discussion. Hope that you're truly intending to be here. We have a lot to share today. So if we could open up the opportunity, Terry, I think you're behind the scenes there, and put Chairman Solomon online. So I'm going to close my camera again. Good afternoon, Chairman Sullivan. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for opening us up in a good way to start our session. So I'm going to just hand it over to you.
Okay. I want to make sure that everybody hears me. Okay. And then I wanna thank everybody for coming. Asiam, Nishchalacha si Itza Salaluch, Itza Siathlam, Atsiam Nishchalacha, Haichka Konasanat Tacho, Itza Itzintlatzatina Quelia, I Suitzen Ohiluk, Konas Langnuch Tia Nishchalacha. Dear friends, relatives, elders, and respected women, just want to thank each and every one for being here. Truly happy to see each and every one of you. And our hands go up to each and every one of you. We want to share a song. If it's okay, we'll share a couple songs. I'm going to take my headphone off here, and then the first song we're going to share is called the Survivor Song. And it's a story of who we are and where we come from. And it talks about the story of the Great Flood and the two canoes that went up in the Great Flood. And when the two canoes came down, and the children that were in those canoes, they were the survivors. And that's who we are. And remembering the story of our late chief, Silik would tell us the story, and to carry that on into the future. And this is the song. It's called the Survivor Song, and it has Lummi language lyrics, and it says, "Tishash waholak siyam, anet tachel nachwelnuch, Sithling quanquam, Tishash waholaksin siyam." In those words, they mean, my highly respected people, we come from the survivors of the Great Flood. Come together, my Indian people, and stand strong. I am a survivor of the Great Flood. So if you're able to stand, please stand with us. Stand strong together, and we'll share this song. Once again, just thanking each and every one for being here, and we're happy to be here. I'm here with my wife, Denise Solomon Yahweh, and we've been trying to get used to this for a while, and uh, having not having the time to gather with our Blackhawk Singers. Like Jen introduced me, I'm Lawrence Solomon, chairman of the Lummi Nation. The first song we shared was the Survivor song, and it's a story of who we are and where we come from. In a lot of stories and traditions, there's a story of a great flood, and we come from the survivors of the great flood. And the second song was called Blackhawk Harmony. Just like all of us today, we're thinking about our people, working for our people, the work that we do, carrying out and following through with the good work. Just on behalf of each and every one, Nawilang Siam. Welcome each and every one of you. AIHC Siam. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman, for your good words, and thank you to you and the Blackhawk Singers for joining us and opening us up in this way, and giving us inspiration from your stories and your songs. I am going to share my screen with you, and I do have a presentation that we're going to start with. And I think that Tara is behind the scenes and hopefully can help me maneuver through this process. So I apologize for our late start today. This is new to us, as it is to most all of us at this point, that we've been trying to function in a way that we're just getting accustomed to. And I think that right now I'm sharing my screen, but I'm not certain that I'm sharing the right version. So could someone let me know if you're looking at the presenter screen or the presentation itself? Tara, you behind
So
the scenes there? Can you help me out?
it says American Indian.
Great. And is it the presentation, or is it my, are they the ones that include my notes?
It's the slides, and I don't see any notes.
It doesn't, yeah, on the right-hand side, it shows the next slide
Oh,
and
okay.
includes
So
the notes.
I'm gonna go off for a minute so I can switch.
Okay.
Hold on. Sorry about this. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Presenter view.
Presenter view, okay.
Presenter view, okay.
That should do it. Does that work?
There we go. Yep.
Thank
You're
you.
good to
Thank
go
you,
now.
folks. Sorry about that. Again, I'm just a novice at this, and anyway, so hopefully we can just move on from here in smooth sailing. Okay. So I'm Jan Ward Olmsted, and I am part of the American Indian Health Commission's team that supports primarily the public health work, but we cross over as well. I'm very honored to do this work on behalf of the tribes and in the state and all of the Native people across the state. I am Chumash. I'm a descendant of San Ynez and Barbareño, California Mission Indians, and have lived here in the Pacific Northwest for over 40 years and have long been involved in doing lots of different work that crosses over many areas, but very centered in health and in education. So I'm just really glad to be here with you today, and I have a few slides that I want to take you through, but I do want to quickly move into our panel. So I'm going to just share some of the work that we have been doing, the Commission has been involved with, and then hand it off back over to our panel. Today, we are fortunate to have with us Chairman Lawrence Solomon, who you heard from earlier, Representative Tina Orwell, who is from the 33rd District and is leading the statewide suicide prevention work group. And then Representative Deborah Lenkinoff from the 40th District, our only Native American representative in the House of Representatives. And so we're so glad that she was able to join us today. Actually, that came to a surprise to us. We had invited her some time ago, and she wasn't going to be able to make it. But last night we heard that she was going to make it after all. So we were real pleased about that. And then Councilman Andy Joseph from the Confederated Tribes of Colville, again, who we're really thrilled to have with us. I'm not certain if Vicki was able to join us or not, but if you're there, Vicki, just speak up anytime. So here we go. I just want to share with you the data, some of the data, and why we're so concerned about this issue, because our people are in great risk. Nationally, these are numbers that just came out in 2019, and I'm not going to read these, but you can see what they are. We have, very high levels of risk here because of the increase in the suicide rates for our population. And our Native youth are at particular risk, and I know that our veterans are also at high risk, and you'll hear a little bit more about that in a moment. Here are some of the recent state data that has been shared in the statewide work group. Again, I'm not going to go into the detail here. You will be able to access my slides, whatever I have, you can certainly have as well. So we'll make sure that they're available to you. One of the other things that in addition to the state and national data, I think that this is really important for us to recognize in this work, is that our people, our youth, are still suffering the losses that have based upon historical experiences. So that historical trauma, and we now know with epigenetics, the effects of those experiences carry on generation after generation, and there's science behind it. The American Indian Health Commission got involved in suicide prevention. In 2016, we were asked to joint efforts by the Department of Health through a SAMHSA grant that they had received. And in that period of time, what we did is that we convened a work group, and it was really centered around around counties that there were 7 tribes within those counties. So we convened that work group. The work group identified priorities, challenges, needs, and then suicide prevention curriculum and training models that had shown some effectiveness in American Indian, Alaska Native settings. And then the recommendations, there was actually some funding that was made available for future direction. And so that recommendation priority was set around convening an intertribal youth suicide prevention gathering. There was $40,000 provided by that grant to support our efforts in 2017. We convened a work group. The work group had 72 participants from tribes and American Indian, Alaska Native communities around the state. So from there, we moved forward in 2016. Actually, LUMI and the Northwest Indian College sponsored the first Intertribal Youth Suicide Prevention Summit and had identified through youth input the theme, Embrace Your Sacredness, I Choose Life. And we carried that theme on through in partnership with the Swinomish tribe, who we co-sponsored with them. Their focus was on the youth. We convened an adult event that coincided with the youth summit. We also presented to the youth as well. So that was a great partnership that really started us off in this direction. 2018, we convened and co-hosted along with the Port Gamble S'Klallam tribe, a 2.5-day event. Again, Intertribal Youth Summit. In 2019, we did the same thing with the Chehalis tribe, a 2.5-day event. Excuse me. Our events have been really focused on leadership and community engagement, just knowing that it's really important to have leaders involved in this work. In fact, Chairman Sullivan attended the 2.5-day. We were so pleased to have him for the full time. And as well as Councilman Andy Joseph also attended the 2.5 days. They stuck with us through the entire event, and also other members of their tribe, adult members of their tribes, as well as the youth. So it's really important in these events to engage tribal leadership and also the knowledge keepers within the tribes, as Chairman Sullivan demonstrated in our opening. Our event was really have been focused on skill development and ways to support each other peer-to-peer, ways to ask for help, a focus on generational clarity and cultural resilience, the use of 7th-generation philosophy or thinking or strategies, and then creating our own stories. And again, from the youth, creating their own stories. We've had Roger Fernandez join us in that work, as well as many other people, members of the Pulling Together for Wellness Leadership Advisory Committee, Charlene Kreis, Vice Chairman of the Squaxin Island Tribe, and Robin Saigo, Councilwoman from the Suquamish Tribe, who spoke very eloquently about cultural protections and established the thinking around creating robes of protections in our communities. And we've also acknowledged veterans. We honored Phil Red Eagle, Uncle Phil Red Eagle, who has been one of the leaders, not elected leaders, but certainly a leader in the canoe journey event from the beginning. He has been involved and has been involved in in that effort since 1989 or 88. Learnings from the evaluations, and then also from tribal leadership is, from the evaluations, we've heard from youth in terms of in life what makes them strong, and what they call out is culture, their role in the family, their spirituality, their inner strength, and connection to others. And activities that they'd like to see happen more is more cultural activities. Certainly summits, they're very supportive of the summits. Being out on the land and the water, youth leadership and developing leadership skills, elder and youth activities, and that's something that they've repeatedly talked about in this work, and a lot of the other youth work, is that how empowering it is for them to have that connection with elders. Learning survival skills, and that was something that was kind of surprising to me, but certainly that was something that they called out. Commitment to embrace your sacredness. What they identified was showing respect to myself and others, love and honor of my family, honor of my teachings, service to my community, and keeping my mind and body clear, and being able to express themselves through different ways, dance and song. And then they talked about greeting an elder in appropriate ways. And then I'm just going to add to this is that we've heard in this work and in other work the importance for youth and elders to be connected. And these are just some of the images in terms of, some of the events that we have sponsored where youth have really enjoyed that connection. At the summit on the right, you'll see there, and at the canoe journey. And then there's a picture I put in there of two of my sons with one of the elders that they had the connection with and great opportunity to learn from. The last summit, 58% of the youth committed to being warriors, to raising hope and healing for life within their own communities. That's something they felt strongly about, that they wanted to take back to their communities. Now, some of these next steps have come from conversations with tribal leaders after the summits. I've heard directly from tribal leaders about how youth feel that they've demonstrated just in how they show up in their communities, that they seem to be just more prepared. Unfortunately, we can't do these, we haven't been able to do these more than once a year, but it certainly has an impact, and the tribal leaders have said they see it in the youth. But our next steps would be, and recommendations are, to reconvene an ongoing suicide prevention intertribal work group, to conduct a statewide tribal and urban Indian assessment and Indian asset and needs assessment, planning for future years to prevent, to continue the Intertribal Youth Suicide Prevention Summit, focused on the same thing. This was youth designed. And also just, by the way, we do include youth in the planning of these summits. An adult conference that's focused on readiness and culturally appropriate models that have been effective in tribal settings. We have spent some time in researching the curriculum, and certainly have worked in partnership with the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board and some of the work and the technical assistance that they provide to tribes as well. I see the benefit in that partnership growing and enhancing that. We've also established partnerships with OSPI, and one of the models that has been very successful in their communities is the White Mountain Apache model. And in fact, we had them come out for the 2018 conference and share some of the findings from the work that they're doing with Johns Hopkins University. And then support resources for tribal and urban Indian community culturally relevant suicide prevention, intervention, treatment, and postvention. And just with that, I'm going to just share this picture that we created a banner for the youth, and there were actually more youth than this at that event. We've had about 200 people at the last couple events. So I'm finished with my slides, and now I'm going to make a shift to the panel, and we're going to start. Sorry to go backwards here. We're going to start with Chairman Lawrence Solomon, and he has some slides. So I'm going to open those up, and that's going to take me just a moment. So bear with me.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lawrence Solomon once again, and I have some small slides just to had some prepared today, and just wanted to share a little bit more. You know, our late chief, he taught us a lot of different things, and the group that we have is called the Blackhawk Singers, and it's a nonprofit, and you know, some of the things that it does, and we'll get to that. We'll share a little bit about that. And so this is me and my daughter, and this is in front of our house that I grew up at in Lummi. In the back, that's Mount Baker. But want to welcome everybody again, just to share a little bit about the Prevention and Awareness and the Embrace Your Sacredness conference, and some of the things that are still continuing on from that. Next slide. So the second slide, do I control the slides? The second slide is just to give thanks and appreciation today. You know, it really, today in Lummi, we not really celebrating, it's just acknowledging and giving thanks. You know, just you know, we give thanks to our coworkers, or we give thanks to our community members, and just kind of creates that family environment, creates you know, brings positivity to the work centers and to our community. And just wanted to share that today. And maybe we can pause for a second and you know, think of some things that you know that bring that you give thanks for today. You know, you know, I'm thankful for this day today. Thankful to the Creator today for allowing us to be here and allowing us to do these things. And I'm also thankful for my family. I've been staying home with my family the last few days, and we've had some spikes here, and you know, just thankful for our family and that everybody is healthy here today. And then, okay, and then, you know, like I said, my name is Lawrence Solomon. I'm the chairman of Lummi Nation, and that third slide is a picture of me when I was in Hawaii at Pearl Harbor. And you know, just to take time and acknowledge our veterans. Next Wednesday, I believe. Next Wednesday is Veterans Day, and also this month is Native American Heritage Month. I wanted to acknowledge those things. Just continuing on from the Embracing Your Sacredness, I Choose Life conferences that were held here in Lummi, and I got to attend the one in Port Gamble, like Jan said, and we're just kind of touching on those things. That fourth slide, somebody can click on the fourth slide. The fourth slide, it says Shlangen, and Shlangen is our way of life, and our way of life, you know, what we do day to day, and how we have that way of life. Now, that first word is Huelnuch. Huelnuch is the Indian people, and to remember that our Shlangen and who we are and where we come from. Our chief Salik, he would tell us, you know, these things that we have that sense of belonging in who we are and where we come from. The fishing, hunting, and gathering, our roles and our responsibilities in our families, for the elders, and especially our youth. The Embrace Your Sacredness conference was really focused on our youth, and just kind of, you know, bringing awareness and prevention of suicide. The next one was, yeah, just our roles and responsibilities, us as parents, or us, our relationship to one another, or us as tribal leaders, or us as representatives, and you know, what is our role to our people? What is, you know, what do we do in our role as parents? What do we do in our role to ourselves? You know, taking care of ourselves. Spirituality, the Blackhawk Singers. The Blackhawk Singers, you know, singing, dancing, Lummi language, and oral tradition are things that, you know, also, you know, that was brought out at the Embrace Your Sacredness conference. And one of the things that the kids look forward to is the singing and the dancing, and our youth getting introduced to other students from other tribes. You know, we see each other on canoe journeys, we see each other at the canoe races or the stick games, and then just to kind of build that bridge. And you know, these are our friends, these are our relatives. The next one is that it brought, you know, kind of making sure we have those healthy outlets, what we talk about, the singing, and this picture in the fifth slide, you can see it, is a picture of Stammish. And Stammish is an event that we hold every year, and it's a good, healthy family fun. And the work canoe races could be up to about 40 minutes, and they're pretty intense. So it's just kind of having those kind of healthy outlets, you know, take care of your body. And but I just wanted to take some time and acknowledge, you know, the work that the SAMHSA and you know, the work that Jan has done at the last couple the meetings, conferences in 2016 and 2018. You know, those things are really needed, and you know, I like to see those continue on, and you know, to bring that prevention and bring that awareness to our communities. And some of the things that I seen you touch on in your last slides, you know, it's just those underlying issues. You know, what are those underlying issues? And here in Indian country, it's the trauma, the multi-generational trauma from the Indian boarding schools. And our late chief, he would say that the elders, you need to tell the children what happened. You need to tell the children what they did at those Indian boarding schools. And just so we have an understanding today why we have alcoholism, we have drug use, and those other things like that. And this is our late chief here, and this is us at Paratolami, and the things that he would do for our children, you know, to listen to the children, Huyan, listen to the children, and he would share his words of wisdom. You know, we're our own resources to ourselves, and how we can help ourselves and our friends and our family. And to remember to teach our youth that they're not alone and that we have each other, and to not forget that. But I just want to thank each and every one for taking time, and I really appreciate you, Jan, for inviting me today to share a little bit. And I guess to show the need and assess, that this work that we're doing is still needed, and really support anything that, if anybody has any other good ideas or wants to host a conference, I really encourage you to do that. But just want to thank each and every one once again. AIHC.
Thank you so much, Chairman Sullivan. And I apologize for not getting the slides up there as you were moving through. We will make the slides available. And I'm going to shift now to and ask Representative Orwell to open her camera, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen, my screen. There we go. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. I'm so glad that you were available at such short notice.
It was an incredible honor to be here, and I was so moved, Chairman Solomon, by what you shared. So thank you. I'm really here today to listen and learn. And I saw your picture in the water, and I remembered a sailing trip next to Lumi Island. And I remember we started, it was very calm, and by the time we were coming back, it was like 45 knots. And I just think sometimes it's calm, and in our life, sometimes it gets very turbulent, and it's obviously a time of turbulence, but so much beauty by where we live. My background, I'm a social worker and a mental health professional. And, I'm just so struck by the work you're doing. It's just amazing. I just love the skill building and the sense of belonging. I was feeling a little emotional because a number of years ago, I was part of a SAMHSA grant, and it was around mental health disparities in communities of color. And a large group of us went down to New Orleans, and I was in this group. It was about 35 people, and everyone was asked to share what culture meant to them and to share stories of their ancestors and traditions. And it was beautiful. It was just a beautiful group of people, very culturally rich, and people were sharing their stories. And I started to panic a little bit because I was adopted and my parents were adopted. So I have like no family tree. And I remember I wanted to kind of leave, but I stayed, and I said, I was adopted, and sometimes when you belong nowhere, you belong everywhere. And a gentleman, American Indian gentleman, who is probably maybe 10 or 15 years older than me, he came up to me and he had tears in his eyes, and he talked about his experience being taken and put in a boarding school. I just remember we just sat there and cried together. I just felt his pain, but he was incredibly strong and so much courage. And so, I'm just so grateful that you're talking about the pain and the trauma, because that is the road to healing, right? That is the road to heal. And, I just really wanted to be here today so I could work with my amazing friend, Representative Deborah Lekanoff, so we could do stuff at the state level to support you. And the conference, the conference is absolutely amazing, and I will do whatever I can to expand that and support it. The other few things I wanted to mention, one is I'm on the governor's task force, and we're looking at a plan on veteran suicide prevention. And a lot of our focus actually is on lethal means and safe storage. And so there have been some really interesting strategies, and it would be interesting to hear, how you approach this issue. But like we've been working with the UW Forefront and the Second Amendment and the NRA and with veterans groups and going into gun shows and giving safe storage for medications and firearms and really talking about safe storage. And so I'd be really curious what you think, how you think there would be an effective messenger and message around safe storage, because we know when people are really depressed, there's that window of time that it's really important to keep them safe. And I tell you, the number of veterans we lose every year is staggering, and the number of American Indian, American Natives is staggering. I was looking at the data from the last 4 years that the Department of Health had, and I think you showed some of it earlier. There's a 43% higher rate of suicide between Caucasian and American Indian, Native American, Alaska Native. I mean, it's just this staggering statistic, and it just, I think of all those precious lives we're losing and that we need to take action. So I would love to hear more ideas you have on that. The other thing around youth, and of course, we lose a lot of youth in the state. We have a much higher rate of youth suicide than other states in the country, and it's so deeply troubling. I love this sense of belonging and connection. So many of our youth aren't feeling that, and I just, and we know probably more than ever with COVID, and they're being torn away from their support circles, and we need to figure out how to reconnect that. The opportunity that I've had is to work on a group that's looking at how we can redo our behavioral health services, and also linking that to the new 988 number. So instead of calling 911 when you're having a behavioral health crisis, you would call 988, and that'll be coming on board in about 1.5 years. But what I think is incredible about it, it's an opportunity to think, how do we redesign our system when someone's in crisis, not only for that crisis, but that ongoing support to get them into the services they need. So again, I'd be really curious. I think it would be incredible to have you, at the planning table, if there's any kind of partnership with the state of how we could be thinking about that. Again, our officers didn't sign up. They're not social workers. They've been kind of by default because of our underfunded system of providing services to people experiencing mental health and behavioral health issues. So again, I think we have this opportunity in our state to really think, how we can, really provide services that make a difference for the community, and design those together, sitting at the table, and not be, knowing there's some new funding and opportunities that maybe we haven't had in the past. I think I had one more thing I really wanted to mention. Well, I think it's about this session. I just, again, I think we're going to have a lot of focus on equity and social justice. I think we're going to have a strong focus on behavioral health and how we can do a better job in police reform. And again, I know Representative Blackhawk, you're doing amazing work in all these areas. So again, I want to partner and be a good partner with you, and just support your efforts. And it's just so critical. It's just, I know there's so much you're doing, and I just want to support you in that effort to save these precious lives and have them have that sense of safety and belonging. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Representative Orwell, and especially thank you for showing us your heart today. That was really beautiful and so appreciated among this audience. There is, I think, a lot to be said about the possibility of partnerships when you're talking about how law enforcement might work in a different way. And I think that some of these issues have come up in the past in some of the projects that we've been involved in. And so I think that would be a great conversation to have. Yeah. And so thank you again so much. And I hope that you're going to continue to stay with us for the duration. And then now I'll ask Representative Lenkenoff to join us. And if you could put yourself on camera, that would be greatly appreciated. And then we'll follow up with Council Member Andy Joseph.
So thank you for having me here. Representative Orwell, it's always a pleasure to work with you and to collaborate with you. In my freshman year, one of the first meetings that I was asked to be in was to come to Tina's office and to talk about those important matters that were near and dear to her heart. And I think one of the things, even before equity and diversity rose to the top in the state legislature, Representative Orwell was already there. She knew that suicide, abuse, the things that we face every day at home, it doesn't recognize a color, it doesn't recognize a race, it recognizes that it's a situation that's happening for us, all of us, every day. When we look at in our Native American communities, those of us who've been victims, if I were to sit down with women who are of my same age group, and there were 5 of us, and they said, how many of you were abused or faced suicide or thought of suicide or are survivors, all 5 of us would still be sitting there. And that's the reality of what we face in our Native American communities. And it is what it is. Chairman Solomon, thank you for the good words that you shared, because we in our Native American communities are facing historical trauma today. And we are, as Chairman Clattersby from Swinomish puts it, we face that reality every day, and we put one step forward, and we take our ancestors with us, and we take our next generation with us, and we build us to be survivors, just as our aunties and our uncles and our grandparents had done before us. I wanted to thank Tina for the work that she'd done. We actually, if you see, I have the Washington State Suicide Prevention Plan that Tina was part of. It came out in 2016. And as we talk about facts and data, which really tell our story for us as policymakers, data, facts, and statistics lead that way for us to justify funding, to justify developing programs. But it's also the story of 5 of us women are still sitting there being impacted. So are 3 elements to creating change. So I'll just read this for you. Suicide is a serious public health problem in Washington State, as my colleagues shared. The state suicide rate is almost 15 per 100,000, 11% higher than the national rate. On average, 3 people die by suicide every day. 3 people die by suicide every day. And the Washington families and communities are grieving the loss of over 5,000 people to suicide from 2010 to 2014. Now, if we pause there for just a moment, we are facing the biggest health pandemic we've ever faced. More people are at home. Domestic abuse went up from 15% to 33% in King County. We know in our tribal communities that domestic violence, that sexual abuse, that alcohol abuse, that drug abuse all lead pathways to suicide. We are no longer able to be with one another as we should traditionally. We're no longer allowed to come together to sing and drum our songs. We're laying our people to rest alone sometimes, or with very little family and community around us. There is something to be said right now of us facing this crisis, of finding solutions together. We must work at a tribal, at a state, at a federal, and to our brothers and sisters to the north in Coast Salish Territory and British Columbia, to the north, to the east, up to Salish, up in the Okanagan Valley. We as Native American people will reach north to them. Suicide is real, and it's happening every day. I am 3 people a day is what we're facing. The pandemic that we're facing of being alone, the change in behavior, the domestic violence, the restructuring of police reform, identifying what numbers do I dial if I need help? Who do I call if I need help? All of that are issues that we as elected officials, you as the commission, our tribal chairman, our health community people must come together. This is one Washington State suicide plan. And when I look at how did we participate as tribal communities, I looked on page 67 where they listed all the participants that were there. And there must be 75. Chairman Solomon, there's one person here from Indian country who represented us, and she was the vice chair of the commission at that time, and that's Cheryl Sanders. Cheryl Sanders from Lummi Nation, who serves as a council member there now. She was the vice chair and represented the American Indian Health Commission as the vice chair. One lone woman sat at a table of about 100 and carried our Native American voices. These, I believe, are the tools we need to have. However, this needs to have a state plan, a chapter of a Native American plan, and then our national plan all tied together as one. When Senator Udall passed a bill in 2009, I believe, addressing suicide and building the toolbox for it, it was the name of the game in politics at the time. It is 2020, and there is nothing to be seen of the work that he passed on that bill. I think we can do better. I believe we can do better. I believe we can set the larger tables that help us address this crisis that's killing our people in Indian country, that's taken our youth. We can do things that no one else can do as Native Americans. We can have the pride, we can have the honor, we can carry our past and our present with us, and that alone creates us to be courageous people to sit at the table with Tina, to sit at the table with the governor, to sit at the table with our congressman, to sit at the table with our neighbor, to sit at the table of our local government and say, we all need to be able to do this together, because suicide is not going to understand when it walks off the reservation and impacts our local community. So remove the barriers, create stronger legislation that's partnered, create unified plans that embraces all of us, and work together to make sure that the next generation that's sitting here, and that my daughter who's sitting here, when she's asked the question I was, she's not sitting there saying this, she's sitting there saying that. And that's what I hope for in my goal as I serve in the state legislature. It is true, I am the only Native American woman in the entire state legislature, both the Senate and the House. Gosh, you guys, I get lonely. Ask Chairman Sullivan. When I see him or other chairs, I get so excited. I just hug them. I get tears in my eyes. And then I wonder if they brought me any fish. But that's a little bit of humor in our day, because we have to be able to laugh and smile together, because that's part of the healing that we have. So Jan, I'll turn it over to you, to my wonderful friend Tina. We have some wonderful work to do, and I am so I'm hopeful when I sit next to you. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, and thank you so much for your leadership, Representative Lenkenoff, and also Representative Orwell. I'm so glad that you were able to join us, and what a great benefit that was for us today, this afternoon, and I'm just so looking forward to this next session and moving this work forward in a good way that really does help our people. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And one last thank you. Andy, it's so good to see you. It's been too long, and it brings tears to my eyes just seeing your smile. Andy's one of the teachers who built me. I went to the School of Hard Knocks being built by tribal leaders, and you were one of those teachers, Andy. So much love sent your way.
Thank you. You know, suicide is something that happens, and you know, when it does, we always are wondering why. What made life so hard that someone would take their own, and you know, the Creator works in real strange ways. I've lost some really good friends to suicide, and try to look for answers to prevent it. You know, I always go back to one of my teachers, is an elder. His name was Sin Pak Chin. He was one of our medicine men, and he told me, because I'd always go to him and ask questions, and he'd say, there's an answer for every question, and there's a cure for every sickness. He said, but it's up to you to find out what that is. And so basically, in a kind of elder way of letting me know there's a higher power out there, and that there's different ways to go about and seek those answers. When people feel down, yeah, I might hear about it, and they might tell me, and I would tell them to, go to the water or go to the mountains, go out in the wilderness. You might see an animal, or you might hear the water. Ask the questions from the deepest feelings from your heart, your thoughts and your mind, from your spoofs, your heart. The Creator hears you. I'll give you an example. One time I went out, brought my family out camping to pick huckleberries, and I got up early in the morning, and I wanted to surprise my family and pick some berries and make some huckleberry pancakes for them. Well, I start heading up this ridge from the camp, and walking up there, and wasn't seeing any berries. I got up there a ways, and I seen a bear, and I asked that bear, says, I want to feed my family, my children, some huckleberry pancakes, and anyway, can you show me where the berries are? So I walked up there to where he was at, and there's two bushes of berries, and they're just loaded down. So I picked the berries from the one plant, and put them in my bucket. I turned around and picked the berries from the other plant and put it in my bucket. I turned around and looked, and that bush was full again. The first one I picked from. So I picked some, and I said, well, I better leave some for the bear. He helped me out. Turned around, and the bush behind me was full again. And so in a way, part of that teaching for my elder was to go ask the questions, and the medicine that I was going to feed my children was provided, and miracles happen. Some of our people need those kind of teachings to give them hope. Our tribe here on Colville, we suffered 3 states of emergency and suicide, and we had a national team come in, and I was back in DC, lobbying, or I might have had a hearing that I had to testify in. But I was at the airport getting ready to come back home, and I get a call from one of the doctors that was deployed to the Colville Reservation, and from a national team that was put together because we had our suicide cluster, and his name was Dr. Hiblin. Anyway, he talked about what he wrote his thesis on, and he said the closest thing chemically to what the brain is made up is salmon. So he prescribed fish oil pills to our people, and he says that people that take in more salmon are less likely to harm themselves, less likely to have mental issues. And so I replied to him, that's really interesting, because for thousands of years our people lived off of salmon. It was about 80% of our bodily intake. We had so much salmon at the Kettle Falls that we could store away enough salmon for the whole year to feed our people, and it was prepared in a way that it was dried. Some of it was smoked. It's full of them oils, and it's all pure natural. Anyway, and I told them, our warriors went away to go fight the World War. And they come home, and they put up the dams, and it blocked the salmon from going to our fishery, and cut off our way of life. And I told him, I says, that was the start of the PSTD and historical trauma. Some of those fishermen had no way to feed their families anymore. Some of them, turned to drinking alcohol, and around the same time, a bunch of our people got sent to boarding schools, and the physical, mental, and sexual abuse that happened to our people in these boarding schools has a chain reaction, that's passed down generation to generation, just like the war veterans. They suffer PSTD also from things that they had to witness, things they had to see. And I want to thank our the young man for the prayer this morning, and speaking up for the veterans. I'm a veteran myself. My two brothers and one of my sisters, three brother-in-laws, my dad and my father-in-law, we all served in the military. But that's kind of runs natural in our blood. So anyway, we're born to, I guess, be warriors, and some of the hereditary chiefs that were warriors, kind of were my elders from, my grandfather's great grandfathers were Chief Moses and Chief Kamayak and Chief Alhai, and on my dad's side was Chief Edward, and anyway, so thinking about suicide, and to me, I would say the cure for it is practicing some of our traditional teachings and getting back to that. A lot of our people, they couldn't do that because of boarding schools. If they spoke their language, they got whipped. They couldn't take part in their spiritual ceremonies. The religions thought we were, praying to the devil, and we had to hide. Our people had to hide to do that as families, and kind of segregate out away from some of the black robes from knowing what we were doing. Some of our government agents that were sent to our reservations to watch over us. They thought we were planning to go to war again or something, and so we had to get back to that spirituality part of our upbringing, I just want to say, when I lost my dad, I remember going to a meeting at Lummi, and I watched young people dancing to the songs that were being sung by the drummers, and I got to ride in a canoe, and just that uplifting of the spirit of those songs, it gave me the energy, and it made my heart happy. A lot of our people are depressed, and right now with COVID going on, the opioid use has gone way up. People are kind of isolated at their homes, and they're really stressed out. I'm also a board member for the Healing Lodge of Seven Nations, a youth treatment center in Spokane, and a lot of our what they use there is traditional practices. They drum and learn how to sing some of the songs, but they also use music. We have a recording studio there where they, our younger generation are into this rap type music. Anyway, we have some really talented staff that can mix music, and so they get these youth to write out these riddles and rhymes, and kind of to explain what's really bothering them, and when they put it into music, this kind of helps with the counselors, because they start opening up, and they start working with them. But most of the patients that are youth that are there aren't just addicted to drugs or alcohol. They're dual diagnosed. They have also have mental health disorders. So we started doing a mental health outpatient treatment to them. They're inpatients for alcohol and drug counseling, but they also treat other patients that will come in there and receive the services. So anyway, the success rate is really, really high there. I got to watch a video of a young man that had to go back to court, and he brought his drum there, and he sang the song, and just really real touching video to see someone that we saved. That young man probably was suicidal. When they leave there, they get to take their CD with them of their songs or their friends' songs. When they feel like they are having a bad time, they can put it in and listen to it. And anyway, it's they've made that connection with their inner feelings from their heart, and to me, that what we need is I guess bills from the state that will allow our tribes to utilize our traditional practices. Well, we'll use them anyway, but back in the day, before European contact, our people that mentored people, the spiritual people that mentored our youth, the elders, they were pretty wealthy, because when they offered their help from their heart, they didn't ask for anything, but our people would just give them what, blankets. They would give them food. They would make sure that they're well taken care of. In this modern day world, our people have to survive, and those spiritual leaders need to survive, and I call it best practices, and it also is faith-based, but it's more using our cultural teachings. And I would say that the success rate will beat out any psychologist or psychiatrist out there. It's very interesting when our young people, find their way to walk in the red road, and I've witnessed that through the canoe journeys over on the coast. Some of the young people that get pulled into those canoe families, to me, that they're saving our people's lives. I always have to bring up my great grand aunt Mary Alhai Moses. She's Chief Alhai's daughter. Anyway, I cleaned her grave during our Memorial Week, and she lived to be 118 years old. She could climb on the horse when she was in her 90s and ride up in the mountains and then jump off and pick huckleberries, and that's hard work. But she didn't get that way by eating all these modern day foods we deal with these days. Our traditional foods, everything that we do with it started off with prayer and ceremony of gathering our foods, our medicines, and our when we go hunting or fishing, it's all prayed for, and there's ceremonies that go with it. Those ceremonies put our youth in the spotlight, and it'd be a lot better to have a young man grow up and get recognized as a hunter or fisherman, and let him feel how good it feels to feed the elders of his tribe, bring him a deer or bring him some salmon. And same way with our young ladies that gather our roots and pick our berries. We put them in that spotlight, and it helps them find a reason to live. And anyway, I just want to restate, there's an answer for every question and there's a cure for every sickness, but it's up to you to find out what that is. And anyway, it's making that connection. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Andy. I just really appreciate your giving just that rich context to the many issues that really affect our the suicide challenge that we have, and really making the connection to the historical understandings and things that are carried on, that generational and intergenerational carrying on of the historical experiences, as well as the traditional practices that and that we even hear from the youth very clearly throughout the work that at least through the work that I've been involved with, the youth make it really clear that these things are important to them, that they want to be more connected to their traditional and cultural practices, that they really need to be connected to the elders. And that's something that continues to come up in these gatherings that we have, and through the voices of the youth. And we have a youth panel coming up next week. We have both an elder and a youth panel on next Friday. In the morning, we have the elders panel, and then in the afternoon, we have the youth panel. But anyway, I think you wanted to make a comment about that as well.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to say was we need to take advantage of what's happening to us right now. You know, I say things happen for a reason. You know, last year I wasn't reelected, and so I got to be home with my children. And then this COVID hit, and then my grandchildren, you know, they couldn't go to school anymore. So you know, I brought them to my home, and we redressed my sweat house, and you know, I told my grandchildren and my sons, you know, we need to go up in the mountains and gather, you know, the medicine. We need to go out and dig the roots and pick the berries as the seasons come, and we need to go fishing. We need to hunt. Plus, I have a garden that I grow every year, so I got to spend a lot of time with my grandsons, because normally, if this COVID never come around, they would have been they're really serious in the sports. You know, we kind of push that on our children to stay active, and you know, we like watching them play football and basketball and, you know, baseball, or, you know, participate in different events and you know, powwow and stuff like that. So we took advantage of the time to teach them how to gather the medicines, how to pray for them, so that they'll work by speaking to them and leaving an offering, and asking those medicines to live good and strong, and always be there for all the future generations. So when we start getting positive cases, we would bring that medicine to our people that was positive, and they got over the sickness a lot faster. They use, you know, some of the people built them sweat houses if they didn't have them. They made the teas and breathed in that steam, you know, from the boiled medicine water that was poured on the hot rocks, or they boiled it and breathed in the steam, you know, right off the stove, and it opened their lungs.
Mm-hmm.
COVID don't like the heat, and because we asked the Creator to make that medicine work, the Creator makes its miracles happen. It's just some people will gather our medicines thinking it's gonna, you know, be what will heal them, but if they don't talk to it and ask it, you know, and pray to it, so it will always be there, it's just like I guess drinking you know, a tea without any purpose. So, you know, that part of it, and when the fires came and the smoke came, you know, I prayed that smoke that we had to deal with was like smudge, and it was going to purify this earth, and that the water, the rains that followed it, would wash everything away. So I really believe we need to take advantage of the things that are happening in our lives. But I wanted to share that because you know, there is hope out there. You know, that I don't want people to think that, you know, it's just going to happen and we're all everybody's going to get sick or something. We can live through it. Our people have been pretty strong and lived through other issues.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm just going to ask for the panelists to all go and open up their cameras for just a moment. And Tara, oh, there we go. Okay. And Representative Lincolnoff, are you still with us? Oh, maybe she had to leave. So I know that we're a little bit over time, but I'm just wondering if there are any questions. Tara, can you help us out with that? Do we have any questions?
There are no questions as of yet.
And
But
any
if anyone
comment?
has a question, if you would like to be
Thank you.
unmuted, just raise your hand and I would be happy to unmute you if you are muted.
Jan, this is Deborah.
Mhm.
As we start moving forward with the 2021 session, and as we start talking about building collaboration between local government, tribes, state and the federal government, I wonder, should Tina and I be looking for the commission to be able to be submitting potential provisos that could bring these studies forward, potential opportunities to support a youth suicide conference for the state that takes the work of Lummi Nation, standing together and bringing maybe communities of color to stand together, broadening it from a Native American for the first couple days into a broader conversation of people of color. Just some ideas as might be evolving from what I heard from the leadership today.
Great. Could we make a plan to follow up with you and Representative Orwell? And so I'll talk with Vicki about that and we'll follow up. We do want to follow up on some of the other items that have been recommended by tribal leaders as well that we've had in our next steps in planning and see how those might fit in as well.
We might add, Tina, we might add a couple names to our colleagues, correct? I believe it might be Representative Gina Mossbooker works collectively on the other side. And is there another person that you think we might be included?
Well, I'm hoping maybe Jennifer Stuber, who's a professor from UW, and she runs the UW Forefront and does a lot of the work on suicide prevention. Yeah.
Great. And just also a note, Cheryl Sanders, leader from Lummi Nation, has long been involved in the suicide prevention work, and I know that she is now stepped off council, and so I'm hoping that we are able to engage with a tribal leader who would be, willing to step forward in the statewide work as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you all very much. And Andy, would you like to close us out with a blessing? Would you like to close our session out so we can end in a good way, just like we started?
Okay. For people that might be on the panel, I was brought up in a very traditional way. I was brought up by leaders also, but the spiritual part of my upbringing, every plant, every animal, they're all just like us. They have a mother and a father. They have offspring, and they have a reason for living. you know, one of the root feasts that we had, this young girl held this root up and said this root's purpose for its life was to feed our bodies and our spirit, and so that's what its purpose was. Each and every one of you have a special purpose and a reason why you're here. Like I said, it's up to you to find out what that is. The Creator will make you work for everything you got, and I believe each and every one of you did. There's good and evil in everything, and most of the most powerful people I know that are leaders, that are spiritual people, had to overcome obstacles, and those obstacles might have been peer pressure by someone that evil one controlled into maybe getting you to drink, you know, at a young age, or you know, doing drugs or something to distract you, and those obstacles might block you from being able to use those gifts that you're gifted with. But you overcame that, and what we need to do is make sure that our youth can overcome that also. A lot of them don't know that they have these gifts, and they need to be taught that, and they need to be, our young parents need to learn how to protect them. And the old time people used to send an elder to, sometimes they would take them in their home and have them mentor their young granddaughter or grandson. And they would live right with them and watch over them and bring on the good teachings. Them songs, like the songs, you know, I heard at the beginning of the meeting, you know, those bring a lot of strength into a family, and it you know, it's there to also protect you. So when I talk to kids, it's like, I told my son, it's like Star Wars. Luke, he was a very powerful young person, and they went after him to become a very strong leader, but the dark side came and took him under their wing and controlled him. So we don't want the dark side to impact our children. We want them to guide them and mentor them. So I'll say the prayer. Kuska kulanchuten in kon mith piayat ut piayatis scale piatis saxilpa in kon mith in tumhula tim ut marimston is use sukmamayam sukmarim ilil mikam ut the saljas ut the pukent the slachinum stalitza papalitza quaspitza. Ask the Creator to bless each and every one of you and the Mother Earth and what she has to share with us, the animals, the foods, the medicines, and the water, for our elders, the teachers, for our leaders. Pray that they do good work for us wherever they are. I want to say a special prayer for our warriors that might be in harm's way. Send a warrior spirit and help guide them, bring them home safe. And hopefully their home will be better than what they left it. Also for it's the moon where we gather and hunt. It's hunting season back here. Time where we can you know, put up the meat and in a good way, and the deer and elk and a moose and, you know, buffalo. For our people that might be fishing, I know I seen my partner over there in Lummi was getting some crabs and sharing them with some elders, and that made my heart happy. But I just want to pray that all our people, no matter where they are, that they gather everything they need and help build their immune system to fight off the sickness if it does come to them. Because that's the strongest medicine. It's that medicine that we lived on for thousands of years. I remember the ones that were mourning, white limnum, that's all.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for your leadership, and thank you, Chairman Solomon and Andy, for your knowledge, your strength, and the will that you put in us to continue to move forward, and for the protection that you've created for us today and as we move forward in our work. So thank you all. Thank you for the participants for joining us and hanging in there with us. And we're going to continue this work always. Anyway, so we'll be seeing you all again. Thank you, and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.